I'm sort of an optimist, and I think you need this to work on climate and energy or policy in general because things are challenging. My name is Paola Yanguas. I am originally from Colombia and moved to Berlin in 2014. And now I moved recently to Switzerland, and I work as a postdoctoral researcher there and a policy advisor as well. And since I graduated, I specialized on climate and energy policy, and that's pretty much what I've been doing the last 10 years. Coming from the global south, you feel a little bit, but this does not apply to my country. This is not really how it works. Where I come from, and that was the first class that really had a focus on global south. Like all the other classes were learning sort of the theory, how governance should be, how good governance should be, how good democratic processes work. And that class was really addressing how there's a self-organization and other governance models in places where the state is not reaching, or there's limited statehood, which coming from Colombia, it really applied a lot to my country, and everyone in that class felt really it added value because it let us understand in more context the other classes that we had. Like that's the theory, that's the ideal world, but in the real world there are other things. I took a few classes on energy and on climate, and one of those professors, she was teaching us energy markets, Francisca Holz. I happened to meet her several times over my career, and actually she was sitting in the jury of my PhD defense, so I think she was a very influential professor for me, and I learned a lot from her. That was sort of the first connection I had to this topic, and that's where I discovered I really like it, and that's what I want to do in my career. So those were, I guess, the most influential classes for me. Yeah, it's funny because I didn't know it back then, but she was teaching us about all the energy markets, oil, gas, and coal. And she presented this model that she had developed, I think herself as a PhD student, which was simulating coal trade. Years after, of course, I started writing climate, energy, but then coal phase out became a big thing, and where I was working, I was sort of given this task of dealing with coal phase out, and with the years I even wrote my PhD on coal phase out, so I became an expert on coal phase out, and then I was really, for my PhD, even using the model she created, of course a version that was improved by some other students, using the simulations from that model even to put into my PhD results. So yeah, the loop closed in a way that I didn't expect. I'm sort of an optimist, and I think you need this to work on climate and energy or policy in general because things are challenging. You might have really good answers in the academic world, and scientifically you might know what's right, but politics and real world, it's very different to that, and it's very frustrating. So yeah, you can despair very easily, and you can despair about the future of the world and about many things if you're working on this for too long. Where I try to always think of that when I'm doing my research or teaching or in my career is to not lose hope, right? We might not have all the answers, but we also should not give up and try to find a new way to approach this, try to find better ways, try to bring new ideas. In case the politics change and somebody is looking for ideas, we're working on those ideas for whenever the policy is right. I don't know if I'll get to see that, if I will live long enough, but for me, like my generation, we probably won't solve the crisis. We also didn't create it, but are contributing to it quite a lot. We are, with all of our work, trying to put a foot on the door, just to make sure that it doesn't close.